now listening to Protecting Your Nest with board-certified family medicine and obesity medicine specialist Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com. Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. During a previous episode of the Protecting Your Nest podcast, you had the opportunity to meet Susan and Tim, who were house guests of the Reversed Carnivore docuseries. After such an engaging conversation, I realized that other house guests who participated in the series have stories to share as well. So as a way to help you get to know some of the other house guests, I am hoping to invite other Reversed Carnivore house guests to my podcast. My hope is not to convince you to become a carnivore, but instead to inspire you to use dietary changes to help you achieve your health-related goals. As a reminder, Reversed Carnivore docuseries was produced by the award-winning filmmaker and television producer Charles Maddox, who's on a mission to educate the public about health-related topics, especially when so many people can reverse their so-called chronic medical conditions with dietary and lifestyle changes. In season 3 of the Reversed series, Charles shares how the carnivore diet is helping so many heal, including today's guest. And yes, your podcast host was also in that docu-series, although I played a small role. And for those who have not seen it yet, make sure to check out the link in today's video notes so you can check it out for yourself. Today's guest is Dennis Ford. After 13 years, Dennis started having about 13 years ago, actually, he had some medical issues that rose up, including gout, obesity, kidney stones, diverticulitis, and type 2 diabetes. After being diagnosed with these medical conditions, Dennis was inspired to eat clean and exercise. He changed his life. And guess what? He was able to heal. So I'm really excited to have him because so many people may see themselves as a Dennis and may see his journey as their own. So Dennis, I really appreciate you not only being on the podcast today, but also participating in the Reverse docuseries. So welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Hampton. Appreciate you having me on to discuss getting healthy.
Yeah, well, getting healthy is what it's all about. And, I actually had a chance to go to your Instagram account. Now, what's your tag on Instagram?
It's dford428.
All right. We're going to have that in the notes for the video. And for those who are checking this out on YouTube, I saw Dennis with this image you can see, and he was actually in some ice, it appears. So Dennis, share a little bit about what was going on in this image that you shared on Instagram.
Yeah, just so through the whole healing process that, and just a lot of research into, health and, how to get your health back. I came across ice therapy or cold therapy. So I decided to, give it a try. It's definitely not easy. I started with cold showers. It's rough. If I show you the video before me getting in, I think I put my leg in like 3 or 4 times before I actually gag. But just a lot of health benefits. But it's just for me, when I get out of the ice bath, I just feel this like rush, this amazing feeling through my body. I don't know if it's hormones or it's, they say, your dopamine response is like 250 times, what it was before you did were exposed to the cold. So, I started doing it. And again, first showers just to kind of dip my toe in. And then now it's like, full on ice baths. And it just feels amazing.
Well, for those who are, I'm going to share it one more time, courageous enough to do what our friend Dennis did. Here's your opportunity. Absolutely a lot of benefits related to longevity and just resetting, getting those mitochondria fired up. I think it's really awesome. So inspiring to say the least. I have yet to do that, believe it or not. I know it's good, but man, I love warm things. So maybe you inspire me. That would be your first order of business, to inspire us to consider that. So let's talk a little bit about, there are people who have seen the docuseries and some who haven't. But for those who don't know who you are, let's start by sharing a little bit about, who you are, like maybe what's your day job and maybe what inspired you to do the work you do.
Yeah, so I live in New York. I work for an Anheuser-Busch wholesaler in New York, and I love my job. I love the people I work with, and that's sometimes that's half the battle, right? You have to like what you do, and then you also have to get along with the people that you work with. And fortunate enough for me, it's like a second family. So yeah, so I just just trying to work through the health issues, and
Yeah.
kind of my main focus is becoming a healthy person. And it was a lot of years it took me to get sick, and it's a slow process. It's not like you ate one bad thing and you're gonna have these chronic conditions.
That's right.
It's really like a long process it takes to get unhealthy.
You got that right. Well, first of all, you would think working for Anheuser-Busch would be fun. I know you guys are not actually consuming the product while you're working, but it just sounds like fun. And then also, I hear some small voices in the background. A lot of times when you talk about like it being inspired, I mean, who's going to inspire you more than your kids, your family? So I'm a huge fan of that. And I know for me, that's really what drives me the most is just being here for my family and obviously the spreading of the metabolic health message as well. So it is amazing. So when you're not, making great product for people when they relax and do things like that, what what do you like to do in terms of your free time? Do you have any hobbies? How do you spend your free time?
So I like, hobbies. I like fishing, but more, I don't ever catch anything, but it's about going to the beach, throwing a pole in the water. And it's just more about just relaxing and enjoying, it's kind of peaceful. Like I walk all the way down to the one end of the beach where there's nobody. And it's just, you get to just enjoy the outdoors. And so fishing is a hobby of mine. And then I spend a lot of time in the gym. I don't overdo it because excessive exercise isn't good anyway. Could be stressful on the body. But I spend five days a week. Right after work, my first stop is the gym. I don't
Hmm.
I don't come home. If I come home, I wind up more often than not making it out to the gym. But I come home, I go to the gym. I go straight to the gym, and then that's 5 days a week. And on the weekends, sometimes I'll go to the gym, maybe. Sometimes not. If I do, sometimes I'll hit the sauna. Play a little basketball in the gym just to stay
Hmm.
active. So that's really
Yeah,
that's my
so
routine.
keeping your body in shape is a hobby. Fishing, I'm not a fisher. My wife's from Mississippi, and in the in the South in the country, a lot of the guys and a lot of the ladies they fish. I did one thing I like about certain activities that are outdoors like that. You get a chance to swallow the environment and just kind of be on the water. You're also kind of trying to master a skill so you can do that, but and just being able to have some time with the people you enjoy being around. It just seems like there's an opportunity. I don't know if you have to be quiet the whole time, but it seems like an opportunity to just socialize and maybe be a little competitive at times. But it all sounds like a good time. So I'm happy that you have your free time, and I think everybody who's checking out this episode should just make sure you carve out some time, some me time, some us time if you're with a partner to do things like that. So I think that's awesome. What about let's go into this whole, why many people change their diet in the first place. It has a lot to do with, maybe having some medical issues. I've always been a little surprised at how young people are. I mean, some of the guys come into the office and they're having ED issues in their 40s. They're having blood pressure issues, diabetes issues, and I'm seeing people lose their lives in their 50s and 60s, and you're like, what is going on here? So we all kind of dream of making it to those advanced ages, but I'm sure that kind of surprised you a little bit too. So when you finally, realize, I'm sick, what did that feel like for you? I mean, did it surprise you, or did you kind of expect it because you saw it in your family?
So unfortunately for me, I was adopted. Well, fortunate I was adopted. I was adopted at birth, so I didn't have a family history to go off of. I
Interesting.
wasn't lucky
Okay.
enough to have that.
Okay.
So when I did start getting, symptoms of, being metabolically unhealthy, it really didn't. hit me. When I got the gout, I just thought, okay, doctors never mentioned like, hey, this is a marker. Like you have to start to, pay attention to what you eat. So, and then I got the diverticulitis, kidney stones, fatty liver. My liver enzymes were like through the roof, like off the charts. So, it wasn't until I really got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes where that really like hit me like a ton of bricks. That was like a gorilla on my back. And I said, wow. Then in hindsight, I look back and after researching and stuff, I found out that all these other things that I had were precursors to where I am now with type 2 diabetes. And then that was scary. That was the first time I was actually scared. You hear diabetes, but you never think you're going to get it, right? You kind of get a pass, and that was my big moment.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just thinking about gout and how I was trained, and you're told things like don't eat red meat. So that may shock somebody to think, well, I thought you said he was a carnivore, right? He was on a carnivore docuseries, so that's a ton of red meat. So it's a little of a disconnect for people. People hear things like shellfish you should avoid. People eat, they say don't eat a lot of sugar. Of course, we don't want that. But when the way we learned it, we didn't really learn it from a insulin resistance metabolic health perspective. We just learned you avoid certain foods that increase your risk for levels of uric acid being elevated, but nobody ever really talks about insulin resistance, metabolic health, and how that's related. And what's really cool about that, from my perspective, um, people do really well once they heal. So I think it's important to understand that this dietary pattern, whether it's keto, low carb, or carnivore, actually greatly reduces your chances of having a gout flare. So let's go into a little bit about your transformation. You ended up, being a little heavier than you are today. I saw some before and after pictures, and you also were able to resolve some medical problems. And I mentioned some of those in the intro, but let's go back a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your weight loss, how much you lost, and also what type of medical problems were you able to kind of put into remission.
Yeah, so my transformation from beginning was 70-pound weight loss initially,
Mm.
and that was through intermittent fasting
Mm.
and clean eating. So that
Mm.
was right. So let me reverse for a second. So the doctors put me on 3 different medications.
Mm.
First, it was metformin, and then Jardiance and Victoza.
Mhm. Okay.
So those, again, after researching, realizing that those medicines are not, they're heavy duty medicine, and that's could have side effects, right? Most medicines do.
They
So
do.
I decided, like, hey, this is my health. I'm gonna take it back. And I again researching on my own, and decided I actually podcast of a YouTube video of Dr. Jason Fung. I found him
Mhm.
and learned about intermittent fasting, and
Yep.
that was like the game changer for me. The intermittent fasting, yes, the exercise, the eating healthy, but the intermittent fasting, I feel for me, was
Mhm.
a game changer that enabled me to like drop 70 pounds like over the course of like a year and a half, 2 years.
That's sweet. You're so you clearly you had some issues with diabetes. I would say this. So the question is lifestyle over medicine. Now, I always tell patients that bridge therapy is what medicine's purpose is. So if you're in a storm and you need a, umbrella and some protection from the storm, it's okay to use medicine. But the question is, what is metformin doing? And I think one of the things that I think about is it improves your ability to utilize insulin. So if you have insulin resistance, metformin will help with that, right? But so does diet. I mean, fasting, for example, if you're not eating, then you're going to reduce insulin resistance because you're giving your pancreas time to rest. You're not having glucose spikes. You're not having insulin spikes. So that's one thing. Jardiance is interesting because that drug allows you to urinate out excessive glucose in your urine. I tell my patients, well, if you make dietary changes, you won't be consuming the foods that turn into glucose, so you won't have to urinate out the glucose in the first place. And you don't have to worry about all that excessive glucose going through your kidneys, causing an increased risk for urine infections, etc. Victoza is interesting because it reduces gastric motility, so you feel full, and it reduces hunger. But anybody that does low carb keto or carnivore knows that their appetite's going to be reduced. And truth be told, once you start intermittent fasting, you will find that you will initially struggle because your body's not used to fasting, but eventually you just won't get hungry. So how ironic is that? So in other words, the mechanism of action of the medicines that we spend a ton of money on, and Victoza is expensive, Jardiance is expensive, metformin is cheap because it's been around, but you have these expensive medicines, they all have the potential for side effects. And yet, by simply changing your diet and doing intermittent fasting, you can avoid all of that, or at least make it a short-term bridge therapy approach. Now, you had other issues besides diabetes, as I mentioned in your intro. So it sounds like the gout was you had kidney stones also, and I think you had a bout of diverticulitis, right?
Yes, I had a few bouts with diverticulitis. Yes.
Yeah, and even diverticulitis, interesting enough, is related to why do you have inflammation in your colon, right? Why do you have these little pouches that get inflamed? Well, it's inflammation. So we're really addressing your uric acid can be an inflammation issue. Your diverticulitis is an inflammation issue. Your diabetes, it's all the same thing, right? And so
But all
again,
caused by the foods that I was consuming for so many years. And it was
that's right.
whether it was soda, it was cookies, chips, loads of carb, ultra processed foods. I mean, you see it every day in the store. I see, I pay very close attention to people now when I shop, and I just see what they're grabbing and throwing in their wagons. And, obviously I don't say anything, but I'm looking at it and just, I say to myself, oh, I'm like, this is not good. This is,
Yeah.
it's a problem. I mean, I think I read the other day by 2030, 50% of American adults will be obese.
Yeah.
That's a
And it's pretty scary, right? And in certain communities, that's already the case, right? There are people who are already at that level of incidence, because in certain communities it's a higher incidence. So it's just, again, it's something that doesn't have to be true. Now, let's be clear. Some people will struggle for many reasons, and that's why I have a nest and a rope, because there's many reasons why we struggle, whether it's the relationship or other things. But it's just good news, I think, for anybody who hears this episode, that this is something that's doable. That you can do it. And yes, even the fasting thing, which is it sounds crazy to some people to not eat, right? But again, once your body starts to adapt, you'll do just fine. Some people do the reverse of what you did. Instead of starting with intermittent fasting, they'll start a low carb keto diet, and then they're finding themselves not hungry, and then they start fasting. So I tell people that we don't have to force any of this, just understand the principles and then start to add these things to your life. So now, if you had somebody in front of you who was afraid of intermittent fasting, any advice or tips you would give them to kind of encourage them to consider that?
Yeah. So for me, I didn't go right into prolonged fasts. I kept it simple, 14 hours first, until you get used to it. Then the 16-8 was like the norm for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I creep more towards the 18-6 and then 20-hour fast, and then full day fast. And then just the other day, I did a 3-day fast for my first time ever doing it. And Dr. Kiltz I was speaking to him about it, and he said, do it, just try it. He goes, you
Yeah.
got it. I was always afraid of I've had some issues with low blood sugar. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty scary, and it was kind of I hesitated to do prolonged fast because of that, because I was afraid my glucose was going to go too low. But he said, "Don't worry about it. You got it. Do it. 1,000%. You got this."
Are you still taking metformin, Jardiance, or Victoza?
No, I stopped those years ago.
That's
Actually,
good. So you're good. Yeah. And I think it's amazing how you have memory, muscle memory in your brain. Most people, there are people who will have hypoglycemia, in general, but that's still rare. So most of it is caused by medication. Going back to what I said earlier, if you are not taking medication because you've done lifestyle, you don't have to worry about the side effects. So, but it's hard to imagine not having to take medication for these conditions where maybe everybody you've ever known who has it been on it, they'll be on it for the rest of their lives. But yet, how long did it take you to get off? So you started your journey, and how long did it take you to get off the medicine?
so I was on the medicine for about a year, and
Mm-hmm.
I definitely not recommended, but I took myself off of all three without,
Mm-hmm.
the doctor. So I went for my last doctor visit with this one particular endocrinologist, and she asked me if I wanted more medicine, if I wanted to take a higher dose of all those medications.
Mm.
I was kind of a little like taken back, like, because I'm like, I'm not a doctor, like.
What's that based on, though? Did she see changes in your A1C or
No,
something? What?
there was no changes. No, it was she just one day I went there and she's just like, okay, she's like, you want to take more, a higher dose of the metformin, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what,
Right, right.
it's
That's your job.
yeah.
Was your A1C normalized by then, or was it still kind of running
Yeah,
a
no,
little high?
it was that it was started off at 9.2 when I was initially diagnosed, and I think
Mhm.
I want to say it was probably like 6.9 maybe, or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So just slightly, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's a reflex. Like, we learn language in healthcare, like let's optimize treatment. Now, of course, the American Diabetes Association is was pretty much saying that at a 7, which is where you were, that's considered, well controlled, well maintained. But obviously, your goal is to be 5, 6, or less. But I think doctors just kind of, as a reflex, just tend to be prescribers instead of de-prescribers. And so, and particularly like we refer people in theory to our endocrinologists because they're more expert. They know how to manage, maybe using a insulin pump, et cetera. But I think it's the training. And I think that as the training evolves, we'll then have the mindset of de-prescribing. What I tell patients is once I get you into a safer range, and that tends to be in the 6 range, that's when we start de-prescribing because if you're that low, that means that your chances of hypoglycemia is probably be greater. So let's start getting some of the medicines off. And I think um, it's just an interesting question to come from a clinician. I could see that question being, are you ready to get off medicine? But to, say, do you want to take more medicine? Let's see, it just doesn't resonate with me. So I'm glad you were able to kind of pause and question that recommendation and say, nah, let's keep working on this lifestyle. Did the doctor know about this whole dietary intermittent fasting thing you were doing at the time? Did that come up?
No, I don't know because I hadn't really started that yet.
At that point, okay, got
Yeah,
you. You were just getting started. Okay, I
no,
just
it's
wanted to get
just like when I came off the medicine, I was just starting to, like, I was already into the research end of it, and I was like, okay, this is a decision I'm going to make now to take my health back.
So I want to ask you about what the Reverse Carnivore series meant to you, but I do want to ask you, I guess, how did you even get interested in this whole carnivore mindset in the first place? Where did that come from?
So I was at like a stall. I was stuck at a number on the scale. No matter what I did, I felt like, not that I was going backwards, and I did. I actually put weight on. I was just curious as to why. I'm like, why is this not right? And I started intermittent fasting again, and it wasn't working. And I'm like, something's not right. I'm like, this has always worked in the past.
Right.
It was like the little crutch, intermittent fasting, and it wasn't working. And I did it for like a couple of months, and I'm like, wow, something's not right. So I just, again, researched, and I came across Dr. Anthony Chafee and carnivore lifestyle and diet, and so I that's where my carnivore journey began, and that was with him. And doing the carnivore way of life.
That's nice. Yeah, I was I don't know if you saw, but Dr. Anthony Chafee was on 60 Minutes Australia, which is really cool. So if you didn't check that out, definitely do. Which is really cool because it's starting to bring these dietary options, which seem so extreme to some, to the mainstream. And I think I want to say this, as I comment on him, although he tends to be a little bit more extreme by saying things like, plants are going to kill you. I think there's a kind of a spectrum, right? There's a bell-shaped curve. Some people need to avoid plants altogether because they absolutely don't tolerate those anti-nutrients and things like that. Other people will tolerate certain things. So if I deviate from carnivore, I will only eat the things I know I tolerate. When I'm doing my ketovore version, where maybe I'm having less than 10 carbs, but we don't want to get so like concerned about the plants when we haven't really done an elimination diet. So you go carnivore, which eliminates everything but meat. But for some people, they're able to add back. And I think that's important to say because part of my mission is to bridge the various communities. And it's not like my way or the highway. I actually do have people in my practice who eat plants who are thriving, and or they're saying, Doc, you know what? I may have a little issue with plants, but I just enjoy them. And okay, you're metabolically healthy, you enjoy plants, and that's all I care about. So I think we have to be really cautious about, kind of trying to convert people. My mission is to make sure they're aware that uh, it's okay to do it if it's working for you and it makes you heal. So, and I know for me, of the dietary patterns I've experimented all the way from vegan to carnivore, the animal-based diet is the one that I thrive with. That's why that's the one I eat. And I just want to make sure people do their own experiment, do an elimination diet where you eliminate the things that could potentially be harming you and then add back if you choose to do that or stick with it. And I think the more you have to fix autoimmune diseases, mental illness, seizures. Those are more commonly. Those things may require you to really stick with that. Others may not need to go that far. So I think that we want to make sure we message that over and over again, so we can continue to bridge community. So you finally found Dr. Chafee. Eventually, you learned. Now, how'd you learn about the docuseries itself?
So that I just on Instagram, I came across the Reversed. I was following Reversed and TV series, and they had put a post out there looking for anybody that either wanted to start carnivore or was just new to it. So I just sent an email out. I mean, I responded to the post, and they called me up and they did an interview with me over the phone, and then said they get back to me, and then they chose me to be a guest.
That's what I'm talking about. So I'm just happy that you experienced it. Now, so you were there longer than me. I was just there for a day. But for you, when you go back and think about your experience there, what, any takeaways? What was anything that surprised you about the whole experience?
Yeah, it was very impactful. That trip was, for me, was like a big deal. It was so worth it to be around all these these doctors and experts that their passion is to help people, and and you were part of that. And it's so, I don't want to say it's rare to see that, to find that, because there are a lot of good people out there that want to help people get sick. I mean, get healthy. But to be around them for 5 days and pick their brains and just learn it. I was trying to absorb. I was like a sponge. I was trying to absorb as much information as I possibly could. And the best part about it is, even after we left, still in contact with yourself,
That's right.
Dr. Chafee, and Sarah Zaldivar, and Dr. Kiltz, and Emily. Even we were like, it's like a community. But that's huge to have that support. I'm not involved in any coaching, but having
you're
you guys
basically
out
getting it
there,
right. You're getting it in a different way.
in a
Yeah.
different way. But if I didn't, I would, because I think that support system is huge.
It's everything.
Other people that have following the same path you are, and that, you know, they're together in a community to talk about things, and
Yeah,
you know, just pick things up from, you know, that something that somebody else may do that, you know,
that's
you
right.
don't, and you can experiment with it. You know,
That's right.
what was that? Just to get back before your comment about you know, having all these issues and elimination diets and stuff. So I feel that for me, this is carnivore is the best way not to
Yeah.
reintroduce, because I did have so many issues, so I kind of had to do the drastic. I went from fasting to carnivore. That works for me, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking to for those other things that I no longer consume. You know, so for me, that's the biggest.
I'm gonna comment on this happy with it thing you just said, because I don't think I have the image, but I did see that you shared a pizza, carnivore pizza. Now, what were the ingredients for that carnivore pizza?
So it was three ingredients. It was meat, which was ground beef and sausage,
Yeah.
and then cheese and some pepperoni on top, and that was it.
Man, now I want everybody to think about that. So instead of having a dough crust, and in a low carb community, we may say cauliflower crust. But if you're a carnivore, you got to deal with the cauliflower. So you know what? Maybe we can use a pizza or ground beef as the crust. And I saw you do that on the stove top, and then you threw the cheese on top with some pepperoni, and you threw the whole uh, a whole skillet in the oven, and it looked delicious, and it sounds so crazy, but who wouldn't enjoy that? So, and one of my favorite animal foods is ground beef. Who doesn't like cheese? And of course, most of us enjoy pepperoni. So, yeah. So I just think it's really cool, and I agree with you. You know, for me, I am I periodically will indulge in plants, but I'll be honest, it's a little scary because some of that stuff just doesn't so work with for me. But it seems like when I eat just animal based, it just like my stomach, I don't notice I have a stomach because I had an irritable bowel problem. But when I eat the plants, I'm always pushing my luck a little bit, and I'm always a little nervous. I hope this doesn't, bother me. So I really think people again have to listen to their body. And I think after what you've gone through, you're like, listen, I'm good. I'm enjoying the foods I'm eating. They're delicious. I'm being creative, just like that pizza example. And I think that's amazing. I think the other thing that I know you're doing is you're moving your body. I recently traveled to the Dominican Republic during the Father's Day weekend, which was also a birthday weekend, and we celebrated 30 years of marriage that same week. So it was a lot going on, and I always continue my workout regimen. I only exercise 2 or 3 times a week, but I try to keep it going. So there were 2 days when I wanted to go to the gym, and I went to the gym. It was a decent sized gym at the resort, and it blew my mind. I get there and nobody was there, and I've been to medical conferences where you literally have to, find a spot to exercise because people are working out. There's nobody there, and then they have a sign-in sheet. Assuming everybody followed the rules of signing in, there was one person who signed in the day before I got there, and one person the day before that in a
Wow.
big resort. And I'm like, what is going on? So when I think about you, and I think about people not being motivated, I guess what I want to know is how hard has it been to integrate exercise into what you're doing? And, any advice you would give anybody about that? Because getting motivated to move your body, it is a vacation, so maybe I shouldn't have been exercising, but what's your thoughts on that?
I might have struggled with that too.
Right.
Yeah. But no, that's a commitment, right? So you that's a goal, a commitment that you have, you know, to make sure you move. And that's kind of what I tell people now is anything, something is better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So getting off the couch, getting out of bed, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, holiday. I mean, I don't know if you saw, I posted something on Father's Day in the morning. I was at the gym, you know, working out. So your body doesn't know holidays, right?
That's right.
Doesn't know vacation. So I stay as active as I can. I make sure I get my 10, 15,000 steps a day in. I go to the gym every day after work. I'm not going to say, I'm maybe necessarily crushing it every day with
Mm-hmm.
intensity, but I make sure I go there. And some days, just not as into it, but I still make sure I go because that's a promise I made to myself that I'm going to, dedicate a portion of my day to exercise and working out. So, yeah, and I tell you, but just get up, walk. I mean, after you eat, the best thing to do is go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. It really is.
reduces that glucose response. And to me, with eating, exercising, everything, it's most important that I make sure whatever I do, I keep my insulin levels down.
Yeah, that's it. And there's
Right.
so many ways to do it. Like that's a very uh good point. Like it's not just what you eat, it's if you move your body, it's if you're managing stress better, it's if you get enough sleep at night, having great, interactions with your significant other. And what better way to have that than to say, let's go take a walk after dinner, honey. Let's go do that. In fact, and the thing that's important, you spoke about hypoglycemia. I think it's important for people who are new to exercise and they're trying to integrate it into their lives. I think it's important that you understand that you need to adjust if you're on medicine what you're taking, because if you're eating low carb, keto, or carnivore, and then you're exercising and you're on the same medicine, you may run into a little trouble with that. So you may want to think about, ooh, if a person's on insulin, I take a little mealtime insulin, but I'm gonna go walk afterwards, I may have to take a little less mealtime insulin, right?
Right.
So
But that's the importance of keeping in contact and having a partnership with your doctor, because you
right.
should be able to discuss with your doctor what you're doing, and they should in turn respect what you're doing. You want trying to heal yourself, so they should respect that. Also, obviously, give you the advice on, hey, maybe we'll lower your dosage because whether you're on medicine for hypertension or diabetes, or, whatever it is, if
Hmm.
it's not as necessary, then it needs to be addressed. So
That's
so you don't
right.
have any complications, right?
That's right. I think that's it. And I really love the fact that, there are ways to fix the problem. That's why we don't just say diet is lifestyle. And again, you don't have to. One thing cool about diet is that it's probably going to get you to the goal if you do nothing else. But if you combine that with things like intermittent fasting, exercise,
Powerful.
you're gonna it's like a slam dunk. And I just think that's one. And for me, it's how I feel. I had some work done on my hand, and when I had work done on my hand, I really didn't exercise for about a month, right? And I was like, why am I always tired now? And my body was used to moving. So you gotta move.
Have
In fact, going back to that story about when I go to my conferences and I see all these people in the gym, a lot of times they're older men who will tell you, I can't even continue working if I don't do this to maintain my body. So a lot of people say, I'm getting old, doc. I say, yeah, the number, yeah, it's going to get older. That's going to get bigger, that number. But the feeling old does not have to happen, but you got to earn it by making a little sacrifice, right? You sacrifice 30 minutes or an hour, and then you'll have energy for the whole day. It's so worth it, right?
yes.
So
You want to get older with muscle.
that's right. Muscle, yes, that's the key. And
And,
that's so
and
important. That's why I don't exercise a lot, because I focus on exactly that. And it doesn't take as long as maybe, running for, jogging for an hour or whatever. So I agree 100%.
right. I'm a believer that weightlifting is way better than treadmill.
I agree
Yes.
100%. I just think you get more bang for your buck. And when you're busy and you're trying to do other things, you have to focus on the most efficient way. And doing it that way, I agree, is
I'm
the
not
most
against the
efficient.
treadmill, the elliptical machines. They're
I
great
know.
for cardiovascular health, and again, stay moving. You're active, But for me, it's muscle is
That's where it's at. Well, without stereotyping, and these are general comments, but I have often gone into a gym and I'll see the slimmer people by the weights and I'll see the larger people on the treadmill.
Yes,
That happens all the time.
And if you go for a long enough period of time, those people are still the same.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
it's like, and so I think aerobic exercise via things like that are fine. But I want people to do the experiment. If you belong to a gym, just notice where the thinner people are and where the people who are larger. Not that you should do the
no
aerobic
judging
stuff,
anybody,
yeah,
right?
but don't make that your primary focus. I think that's some great advice. We're not experts in exercise, but it's been our anecdotal experience, and I
Right.
think that's what I see all the time. So, have you impacted other people? We know you're going to impact other people in the docuseries. But what about your friends and family who are watching you? You lost 70 plus pounds. What are they saying, and have they been impacted by this?
Yeah, so slowly, so not so much my family, but I got a story for you. There's a gentleman at work that
Hmm.
he came up to me and was asking me about some questions about my weight loss and the show and stuff like that, and then he had proceeded to tell me that he had type 2 diabetes, and
Mm.
he's very overweight. And so I said, what, do you check your numbers? Do you, what are you doing to, kind
Mhm.
of like help yourself? And he says, yeah, my glucose is like 400. I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like,
Right.
Joe, I said, that's a problem. I said, you have to get that under control. I said, because, you're talking, you could lose your legs, and it probably was a little hard, but for him to hear that. But I said, eyesight, your blood vessels, your heart, everything is affected by that. Those elevated glucose numbers for long periods of time, I said,
Hmm.
that's a recipe for disaster. So I give him I told him what I was eating. And he
Hmm.
started incorporating that. And slow, he said, I'm not perfect. I said, you don't have to be
Right.
perfect. Just be
No,
consistent.
no, that's right.
So he's down 37 pounds now from where he was. And it was like so exciting to hear that and to see him actually losing weight and other people making
Yeah,
comments that, you know, that he looks better and, you can see it in his face. And,
that's right.
for me, that's golden.
That's
That's like,
go.
that's worth everything
It's worth everything.
even for one person. If
That's
it
right.
was just that one person and nobody else, for me, it's worth it. But I
Yeah.
want to try, like, my goal, like, through Reverse. So Reversed is kind of, Charles did this because he also wants to help
Hmm.
people.
That's right.
He suffered himself, and he wants to help people. And that whole show was designed about helping people. Yes,
Yeah.
helping me and the other guests on the show, but it's really the message that we take from that and we spread around. And so
Yeah.
my goal is to have a positive impact on as many people as I can
That's
for the
right.
time that I'm here. It's not, there's no, oh, I'm going to do this for the next month. So this for me personally, the way I eat is forever, and me trying to help people is forever because I get so much enjoyment out of seeing other people heal and become healthy, and then the smile on their face because
That's
you
right.
walk different, you talk different.
Yeah.
When you're healthy, when you hit your weight goal, it changes everything. It's not just yeah, okay, shed 50 pounds, 70 pounds. It's I feel better, I look better. I wake up every day now. I was waking up like brain fog, waking up tired, couldn't sit at the end of the bed for a few minutes before I could even like put my feet on the floor. And now I get up and I feel like, I get up and I'll tell you exactly what I do. I wake up and I have a set of dumbbells and I grab dumbbells and I just
Mm.
start doing something, whether it's shoulder presses, curls. I make sure I get 100 push-ups in every day. At
Wow.
some point, doesn't matter if it's 5 here, 1 here, 10 here. I get 100, push-ups in every day on top of the gym, on top of my steps. So I take advantage of my time when I can to make myself healthier. But yeah,
Yeah, I love it. I, you said so many inspiring things. I love the fact that you weren't preachy. you were seeing your life transform, and somebody just came up to you and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you up to?" You know, and I think that's probably the best way to approach this. Many people will heal with diet, lifestyle changes, and you just want to fix everybody, you know. But
Yeah, they
but
become
that's yeah, that's a
addicted.
yeah. You be careful with that because
Yeah,
now I'm blessed to be able to do that because that's what I do for a
that's
living,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I can help heal, but for those who don't, they're not a coach, they're not a doctor or a nutrition professional or a pharmacist like my wife. Yeah, be careful. The best thing you can do is model for people who will see your transformation, and for those who want more, you can coach them along. You can give them tips about, what you eat like you did for this gentleman. I mean, so let's pause just for a second and answer that question. A typical day for Dennis is, what do you typically eat?
So if I'm not fasting, I either have ground beef, sausage, eggs. That's pretty much it. I
That's your
don't.
thing. You keep it real simple.
I keep it so simple. Like that's one of the things Dr. Chafee said.
Yeah, he's very
Keep it
simple.
simple. Keep it simple. Eat when you're hungry.
Stop.
Stop
That's
when it's
right.
not.
That's
When you
right.
feel satiated. That's it.
That's
Time's
it.
over.
That's
Don't
it.
overdo it. So that's yeah. I My shopping is steak, eggs.
That's
That's
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
It's
cheese,
funny.
some like aged raw cheese.
Okay.
Not really any dairy. I really don't do. I'm not into like
I'm
other than cheese.
curious about the eggs because I know when I was in the Dominican Republic, and I hadn't really noticed when I went to Europe that they don't put the eggs in the refrigerator in
Oh yeah.
some of these countries. That really blew my mind. And apparently we wash off the protective coat in the United States,
Yes.
and they last for about 45 days or so. But in those other countries, they keep the coat on and they can be outside the refrigerator for 21 days. I thought that was interesting. So, and I guess for people who don't like steak and eggs, they can come up with other versions of this. But yeah, I like this idea of keeping it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. I do eat seafood, but I find that it doesn't fill me up the way steak does. So I only, if I eat that, I gotta have something else with it. It just doesn't work for me, but I do still enjoy it sometimes. So I'm a little bit more broader with my approach, but I think that your body has decided this is what's best for you. So it sounds like we talked earlier about um, you're not really interested in that. I've eliminated things and adding back is pretty much going to be, let's just roll with this path for now and use that as the way to heal. So that's really cool. Now you have Dr. Anthony Chafee as one of your resources, right?
Yes.
So any other resources out there that you use to keep you focused or to learn? What are you doing with that?
Yeah, so all my resources is the people that were on the show. That's
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
Dr. Chafee and them. They're all great. They respond back right
That's
away.
good. That's
Yeah,
good.
so any questions I have, whether it's food or it's a symptom maybe of something,
That's right.
I reach out to them. So
That's
that's
cool. That's a
yeah,
good
Emily,
resource.
Emily Havra, she's huge with the fasting.
Yeah.
She has support. I mean, she has groups that her
That's
and
right.
Bella work with. So, but yeah, that's my go-to.
That's
And
cool.
I'm thankful and grateful to every one of them. And
Yeah.
myself too for helping.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just talking through something.
Yeah,
Or
that's it. Just filling those knowledge gaps. So,
yes.
and Maria's like a mom. She kind of was like the mom for us while we were there. you
Yeah,
know,
Maria's awesome. Great with food and cooking, and her knowledge on health too.
that's
She's
right. And her husband, I had Craig on the
correct. Yeah,
podcast, and he's very scientifically sharp about a lot of these concepts. So I think they're a power couple in this space, and I really appreciate all they're doing as well.
and
Um,
I've met so many new people just being in
yeah,
this carnivore community circle arena. Just that ask me for advice just on through Instagram or direct
yep,
messaging, and just friends.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you hope you see someday at an event or, something, because you become close with
That's
others.
right. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, this exposure, it will be interesting for you when you finally find yourself at your first conference since it's been released and
Yeah.
how people respond. It'll be very interesting. So hopefully,
Yeah.
I
And
can't.
I'm not anti plants,
Right.
like if you choose, that's what gets you to where you got to be. That's what makes you healthy. That's what you feel you need to do. That's fine by me.
Yeah,
This what I choose,
that's right.
and I speak about it and I talk about it, and I'm new to it, within the past year, carnivore. So, but it works for me,
Okay.
and that's what I do. And I don't hate people that eat
Yeah,
plants.
we can't. We don't want
Oh,
to. We don't want to be part of that.
to each his own.
The world is crazy enough, and I I have found that my vegan and vegetarian brothers and sisters are as concerned about health as I am. And they
That's the
just went
goal.
down a slightly different path. If I have patients, I make sure they're aware of what they need to take to, enhance that with supplements. But I am never gonna speak negatively in that way. It was fun. Sometimes it's fun when you're on Twitter and people are kind of
The
saying,
debate's good.
yeah, it's entertaining, but
Yeah,
ultimately, a better approach is to have intellectually stimulating dialogue, and we do want to always challenge our beliefs. And so I think it's important that people always question their beliefs because guess what? The Dr. Sean Baker randomized controlled trials, which he's raised money for, are yet to come. So we may learn some things that may make us pause. I doubt that we will, but if we do, we want to be open to hearing those things and not, being so indoctrinated into this way of thinking that we can't question what we do. So I really think that's important. We all have goals, our true north kind of goals. Do you have a specific goal? Maybe it's your weight, maybe it's a certain number with your A1C. Where are you at in terms of your true
yeah. I mean, I would
north?
like to get all my all my numbers perfect. I want my my A1C to be 4.8.
Yeah.
Eventually it's 5.4 now. Yeah. I mean, do I still have fat to lose? Yes, absolutely. I want to kind of lean muscle. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to. Yeah, that's you always want to look better than you do,
That's
right?
right. That's right. I love
um,
it.
yeah. And I would say one other thing real quick. We were talking about, introducing other things. So for me and probably a lot of people I speak for, the sugar addiction is
Mm.
a real thing. So that is like super powerful,
Mhm.
that some people have no control over, right?
Mhm.
So, for me, if I introduce like, let's have some blueberries, and other people may be able to do that. For me, if I started with the sweets, and they, like Sarah says all the time, if she puts past her lips, then she'll go right back to being addicted to sugar,
Just
and
like that.
yeah. So for me, I find if I have that sweetness, then I start craving it, and then it just brings back the cravings for those types of foods.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. And again, everybody's different.
Yep.
I can be around a cake and it doesn't phase me. Popcorn, that's a little tougher, So I think you have to know what your weak spots are, and if you indulge, control how much you indulge, and if you are trying to avoid those things, keep them out of your space, so you won't
Space.
have to worry about it. So let's think about my nest and rope acronym: nutrition, exercise, less stress, more sleep, protecting our thoughts, of recovering from trauma. And then the rope is relationships, staying away from harmful organisms and pollutants, and protecting our emotions and life experiences should serve us, not harm us. So, like the life experience of the Carnivore documentary. So for you, when you think about the nest and rope, anything beyond fasting, diet, exercise that you plan to focus on over the next 12 months?
So me, it's really the nutrition, and because you could always learn, right?
Yep.
It's nobody knows everything. You could always
Yep.
learn. So I I focus all the time on nutrition and what can benefit me in the best possible way. And then also the same with exercise. So nutrition, exercise, um, those are the two big ones for me. And your acronym. I
Yep.
want to. So I go to the gym. I'm not an expert in exercise physiology and stuff,
Right. Right.
but I want to learn. So that's like what to be the best. To be the best, you have to, you know, you know, um, how do I say it? Knowledge is power, right? So the more knowledge you have about nutrition, about exercise, the better you'll be, right? For
Okay.
yourself and
Okay.
for others. So those are my goals to,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
So again, I shared with you that I shared the image from Instagram. So we know you got an Instagram. So maybe repeat that. Where else can people find you who want to kind of keep up with you, see how your journey is going on social media beyond that?
Yeah. So for me, it's just Instagram. It's D Ford, FORD 428.
Yep.
That's my Instagram username. And that's really, I'm not on YouTube. I'm not,
That's right. No,
other
you're good.
platforms. So,
Not
yeah,
yet, anyway. Not
not
yet.
yet. Not yet. I haven't figured it out yet.
That's right. That's right. Well, trust me, I eased into it, and I cheat and use my podcast as a way to get some content out. But as I've become more organized in my life at work, I should be able to make some video shorts more frequently, and that way continue to educate people. So, Dennis, I appreciate you for coming to the episode, giving people a little bit more information about those house guests. You've joined Susan and Tim, and maybe some of the other guests will be on the podcast. But I appreciate that timely. It looks like you got a dog, you got a crew, so that's perfectly timed as we wrapped
Yeah.
up. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts before we end?
Just yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always good to chat with somebody that has similar goals in mind, and
Yeah.
you guys are all unbelievable, and I appreciate that. I know the other guests certainly appreciated what you had to say. I know you were only there for a short period of time, but very impactful the time that you are there.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I want everybody to know that I want to help others too. So
That's
reach
right.
out to me, questions, whatever,
That's right.
comments. Just stay active in the space, and also stay active in your life, and just move.
That's right.
Think about what you're eating. Think about you know, what you put in and how it's going to affect your body.
That's right.
That's so important.
I love it.
And then I'm challenging you to do that ice bath.
Oh man, don't do that to me. But yes,
I want to see the
you're
video of
killing me. That's right. Well, when I do it, I'll absolutely share it, and I will definitely credit you as the one who made it happen. So thank you so much. And again, just really nice to get to know you more and this is what I love about podcasts. I get to know people a little bit more just by having a conversation that everybody else can enjoy as well. So thank you so much for that, and look forward to us continue to collaborate, my friend. So thank you for being on the show.
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, today, guys, we heard from Dennis, and Dennis is a man who, with lifestyle changes, has been able to reduce his risk for diverticulitis flares, that's inflammation, gout flares, inflammation, even the kidney stones. We didn't go into much detail about. Inflammation increases your risk for that, particularly for uric acid kidney stones. And of course, diabetes is a thing of the past, already at a A1C of 5.4, looking towards a 4.8 potentially, and no medicines to get that done. And I just think that's an impactful message that Dennis has shared, a message that you need to know that you can do it too, because he's no different than you. Like you, he's struggled. And like you can do, he's faced his struggles. And finally, he was able to overcome his struggles, and you can too. So, I have found that my patients who, find success, are, they're not wiser necessarily. I know Dennis knows more because he's hung out with with those mentors. He's not necessarily more gifted than the next person in any way. Instead, he simply had this. He decided by no any means necessary, I'm going to overcome this problem I have to solve, and that problem is I have to get rid of this insulin resistance. I have to get rid of this metabolic syndrome, and I'm going to heal. And how you do that may vary. Some people get a handout. Some people need coaching. But what you always going to have is something internal that's going to make you want to do these types of things. So I really encourage everybody, to understand that, listen, life is not fair. Why did, Dennis have to face these medical problems in the first place, right? It just sneaks up on. Some people eat crazy. George Burns smoked cigarettes till he was dead at 100, right? But yet it's not fair. But it doesn't matter, because no matter what your struggle is, you can have a victory over that struggle. And if you're dealing with a so-called chronic medical condition like diabetes, hypertension, etc., you can have a victory over chronic illness, and you can have a victory that allows you to live the kind of life that you've always intended. So let's take some lessons from today's episode and let those lessons be the foundation to help you get moving in the right direction. And if you were so inspired by Dennis's story today, share something in the comments about what inspired you, or maybe about what you're doing to be successful along your way. And of course, this is a grassroots effort, so make sure to share the episode with friends and family, because they deserve to be healthy too. They may have never heard this message before, and you can be the one who brings that healing message to them. So I hope today's episode inspired you with Dennis today. And until we have another episode of the Protecting Your Nest podcast, continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest. You've been listening to Protecting Your Nest with Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com.